My name is Jeff Savell, and I'm a professor at Texas A&M University in the Department of Animal Science. And my topic today is, are we filling the demand for quality? What I would like to focus on is the result of 3 different surveys that have been conducted on behalf of the Checkoff program. One would be the National Beef Quality Audit in 2005, the National Beef Tenderness Survey in 2006, and the National Beef Market Basket Survey in 2006. I think these surveys give us a chance to really understand how beef is performing from the cattle producer through the packing plant, from the plant to the retail store, and through food service, both from a tenderness assessment as well as the compositional assessment. So let's see what these surveys have to say. The first thing I want to do is start off with the National Beef Quality Audit and talk about a slide that represents the predominant hide color. And what we evaluated the hides of cattle coming in, and this is a relatively recent survey topic on looking at hide color. In this case, 56% of the cattle were black, and the last time we measured this, it was in the high 40s. Truly, the number of cattle that are black today continues to increase, and you also see in this slide the number of Holstein. In fact, 8% of the cattle that we surveyed in fed steer and heifer plants were Holstein. This is not an endorsement of, this is not an indictment of anything, but I think what it gives you is an idea of the different kinds of cattle that are coming to market, at least from a color standpoint, and know that at least that the number of black cattle continue to increase as each time we measure them. The steer and heifer comparison from a carcass perspective, I think, is interesting. That the first part of this, you see that the carcass weight in pounds, the steers have a very heavy weight, 816.9, and the heifers 758.3. And it's clear that there's big weights in all these cattle, but there's obviously a size difference between the steers and the heifers. Fat thickness, the heifers are generally a little bit fatter. Kidney fat, not big differences, although the heifers would have more. And the ribeye areas are identical. Now, part of that is because the Holstein ribeyes, Holstein steers would be included in this, and they would have slightly lower ribeye areas. But I think this slide represents what we would see for steer and heifer comparisons from a carcass characteristic standpoint. You then see the quality grade distribution by cattle type. And these are broken out by dairy, and native, and Bosindicus. The native would really be cattle that are not dairy or not a high percentage of Bosindicus. And the dairy obviously would have dairy shape, conformation. The Bosindicus would have humps that would at least be 4 inches in size. And if you look here, the native, you see the distribution of quality grades there. The dairy are skewed a little bit more to the left, which means that there's a higher percentage of them in the prime and the top choice grade, and fewer down in the lower grades, whereas the Bosindicus tends to be skewed more to the right, where there are more of those in the low choice, select, and the standard grade. So you at least get an idea of the different kinds of cattle and what they're contributing to the quality grades. When you combine the USDA prime and choice compared to the standard and lower, in 2005, surveys showed that there were more of the primes and choice than ever before. And so I think that's good news for the beef industry that, that supply seems to be up, and, whether or not that always fits everything in the market, at least you see that of the times we've surveyed over the last 4 times, that number was the best it had ever been. When you look at the ideal versus actual for the consist of what people would expect, you still see that there appears to be more demand for prime and top choice than what we're able to supply. So I think that fits in very well for those programs that are going to target that shows that there's still opportunity to meet more of that market demand. And of course, carcass weights, as we saw on an earlier slide, there's just a tremendous increase in carcass weights, and in fact even today those weights are even higher than ever before. I want to shift gears and talk about the retail tenderness survey and just kind of show you these are cuts that have been evaluated. They were purchased at retail counters across the country. Steaks were analyzed for their Warner Brasser shear, and you can see that we had some cuts that are very tender. All these are very tender cuts, which that number keeps getting better. The ones at the bottom, we said that the round cuts are tougher than the other cuts, but yet their values are still very good. So if we're going to work on anything, we'd probably work more on those cuts than anything else. If you look at comparisons between among the last three surveys, in the 91, 98, and the 2000 survey, the red bar here represents the ones that are from the current survey, and you see that their shear force values are even lower than the other previous two. So again, I think there's progress being made in improving the tenderness values. I think some of this goes back to that we're finding that 47% of the retail cuts, at least, are coming from some branded program, and that makes a big difference today. I think that you've got more care and attention to the quality of the product when you have so many branded products being produced. Looking at food service, and this just shows the three major cuts: ribeye, top loin, and top sirloin. You can see those are very good cuts as far as the tenderness values are concerned. When you look at it across grade, really no differences in grade, which surprised a lot of people when we reported this, but I think some of that goes back to that again, in a food service setting with care and attention and good aging times and things like that, that some of the differences are managed out compared to what you would expect there. The last part is to talk about the National Beef Market Basket Survey, and in this study we looked at retail cuts in the case to see how fat they were and what kinds of differences we would expect. And in this case, if you look at the combined overall fat thickness, we had about 1/10 of an inch, which is down slightly from the last time we checked this, and you can't get it much less fat without taking all the fat off. And so I think that's good news that there's 10,000 cuts that have an average of 1/10 of an inch. The last slide on the market basket really shows comparisons between what USDA has in their database versus the database we were working on. And in summary, we found that cuts had about 34.7% less fat. This is separable fat, trimmable fat, compared to the information that USDA would have for these cuts. In extractable fat, they're pretty close, and you would expect that by the time you get all the fat off of the cut and you're just dealing with the fat, the marbling fat that's in, that those would not have differed that much. And so I finish here with a quote that said, "The most common nutrition misperception about beef is related to its fat content. This survey shows that the beef in our marketplace is leaner than ever before, and without question, beef is the leanest it's been, and I think all of that has been very important." One of the things that you see in kind of a summary, I think that we're producing a lot of good high quality beef. Our concern is that the weights continue to increase, and that has been a problem in the beef channel. Tenderness is improving. Still have a few places where there needs to be some help, but I think the branded beef programs are making a big difference here. And the market basket survey is showing that beef is leaner than ever before. And I think all these are good news for the beef industry.